The war zone didn't look like a place on Earth anymore. It looked like something that had forgotten how to live. A broken horizon stretched across shattered buildings, burned vehicles, and dust-filled air that never seemed to settle. The sky above flickered with distant explosions, each one lighting up the darkness like a warning from hell itself. Second Lieutenant Emily Carter moved carefully through the ruins with her unit, boots crunching over broken concrete and twisted metal. Every step echoed in her ears louder than it should have. She didn't like this mission. Not because she was scared, but because her instincts were screaming that something was wrong. Too quiet. Too planned. Too perfect. Eyes open, Sergeant Miller said through the radio, his voice tight. Intel says we're dealing with a small enemy holdout, in and out, 10 minutes max. Emily didn't respond. She just scanned the surroundings. Her fingers stayed close to the trigger. She had been in combat before, but this felt different, like walking into a room where someone was already waiting for you in the dark. Their objective was critical. Backhand index pointing right, infiltrate a collapsed industrial zone. Backhand index pointing right, retrieve encrypted intelligence files. Backhand index pointing right, extract before enemy reinforcements arrived. Simple on paper, deadly in reality. They advanced through a narrow street lined with destroyed cars and broken walls. The wind carried ash and the faint smell of burning fuel. Emily raised her hand. "Stop," she whispered. The unit froze. Her eyes narrowed. Something had moved ahead. Nothing visible now, but she felt it. Miller looked at her. "You see something?" "No," she said quietly. "That's the problem." A beat of silence. Then, a sound cracked through the air. Metal snapping. Too late. Boom. The ground exploded beneath the lead vehicle. The shockwave hit like a hammer. Emily was thrown sideways into debris, her vision flashing white. Dust swallowed everything instantly. Screams followed, short, sharp, and then abruptly cut off. "Ambush!" someone shouted. Gunfire erupted from every direction. The quiet night turned into chaos. Tracer rounds lit the smoke-filled air like glowing threads of death. Emily rolled behind a collapsed barrier, heart pounding, breath controlled by training alone. No panic. Only survival. "Return fire, find cover," Miller yelled. But the problem was immediate. There was no clear enemy position. They were everywhere. Hidden in ruins, on rooftops, inside broken buildings. It wasn't a skirmish. It was a trap. Emily leaned out just long enough to fire 2 precise shots. 2 enemies dropped instantly. She didn't waste bullets. She never did. "Left flank," she shouted. Another explosion cut her off. The rear of the convoy detonated violently. Fire burst into the air, flipping metal and sending shockwaves through the ground. The radio screamed with overlapping voices. "Unit Bravo is hit. We're losing comms. Extraction team is static." Then nothing. Emily's stomach dropped. Something was wrong with the entire mission structure. This wasn't just an ambush. It was coordinated. Designed. Targeted. "Fall back," Miller ordered. "Move to extraction point B." They began retreating through the ruins, but the enemy had already adapted. Gunfire followed their movement like it was predicting them. Emily ran low through smoke and fire, covering the rear with controlled bursts. One soldier beside her dropped suddenly. No time to check. No time to stop. That's how war worked. Another explosion hit the street behind them. The blast wave slammed Emily forward into a wall. Pain shot through her shoulder. Her vision blurred for a second, but she forced herself up. "Carter, move," Miller shouted again. They pushed into a partially collapsed structure, trying to regroup. Inside, darkness swallowed them. Broken beams, dust, and silence replaced the chaos outside. For a moment, it felt safe. That moment didn't last. A deep mechanical sound echoed nearby. Emily froze. "That's not ours," she whispered. Before anyone could respond, a missile struck the outer wall. Boom! The building collapsed inward. Everything turned into chaos again. Concrete falling, fire spreading, screams disappearing into dust. Emily was thrown backward hard. Her helmet cracked against metal. Her ears rang. The world spun. When she opened her eyes again, everything had changed. Silence. Not peaceful silence. Dead silence. Dust slowly drifted down like ash. Burning wreckage flickered around her. The radio in her ear was dead, only static remained. She pushed herself up slowly, every muscle aching. "Sergeant Miller," she called. No answer. She staggered forward. "Jackson Perez." Only the wind replied. Her boots stepped over broken concrete as she exited the ruins into open ground. And then she saw it. The battlefield was destroyed. Burning vehicles. Collapsed structures. Bodies scattered across the ground. Her unit. Gone. Emily stood still. For the first time in the mission, she didn't move. Didn't speak. Didn't breathe properly. The reality hit her slowly. She wasn't part of a unit anymore. She wasn't following orders anymore. She was alone. Completely alone. Somewhere in the distance, enemy lights began moving again, search patterns tightening, closing in on the area. They were still hunting. And now, only one target remained. Emily Carter lowered her head slightly, tightening her grip on her weapon until her knuckles turned white. Fear was there, but something stronger rose above it. Focus. Control. Survival instinct. She whispered to herself, barely audible. "If I'm the last one left, then I finish what we started." And then she stepped into the smoke-filled darkness, while the enemy started closing in. The battlefield no longer felt like a battlefield. It felt like a grave that hadn't finished closing. Emily Carter stood among burning wreckage, smoke curling around her like it was alive. The sky above was dark now, but flashes of distant explosions kept turning night into broken daylight for seconds at a time. No radio. No backup. No command. Just silence, and danger moving somewhere in that silence. She slowly scanned the area again. The wreckage of her unit was still there, but she forced herself not to look at it too long. In war, hesitation was death disguised as emotion. Her fingers tightened around her rifle. Her breathing slowed. Training took over. She checked her gear again. Ammo limited. Medical kit damaged. Comms dead. Extraction point unknown or compromised. One conclusion formed in her mind. She was not being rescued. She was being erased. A faint crackle suddenly broke through her dead headset. Emily froze instantly. Survivor confirmed, female soldier, eliminate on sight. Her blood turned cold. So it was true. She wasn't just lost. She was now the target. Emily pulled the earpiece out slowly and crushed it under her boot. "No help coming," she whispered to herself. The wind carried ash across the ground like ghosts running in circles. Then, a sound. Footsteps. Not far. She dropped instantly behind a burned-out armored vehicle, pressing her body low against cold metal. Two enemy soldiers appeared through the smoke. Slow, careful searching. Their flashlights swept across the wreckage. They were talking, but she didn't need language to understand intent. Hunt. Find. Kill. Emily's finger rested near the trigger. Her breathing slowed further. Wait, wait. The soldiers passed closer. One of them paused near her position. A second of silence stretched too long. Emily didn't move. Didn't blink. Then the soldier turned slightly away. Wrong direction. Mistake. Emily struck. A quick silent movement, one precise shot. The first soldier dropped instantly. Before the second could react, she pulled him behind the vehicle and ended it quietly. No noise. No panic. Only efficiency. She exhaled slowly. Two down. But it changed nothing. More would come. And they would come faster now. She looked at the horizon. Enemy flares were rising in the distance. Search pattern expanding. She was inside a net. A very large, very organized net. Emily moved immediately, no hesitation now. She ran low through debris using smoke as cover. Every step was calculated, every movement silent. But something was wrong. Too coordinated. Too precise. They weren't just patrolling randomly. They were tracking her movement. How, she whispered. Then she saw it. A drone. High above the ruins. Barely visible. Watching. Locking onto heat signatures. That explained everything. She wasn't being searched manually. She was being hunted by technology. Emily raised her rifle and fired a controlled burst. The drone exploded midair. But it was too late. She heard it. Distant alarms activating across the battlefield. Her position had been confirmed. Contact alert, a voice echoed faintly from enemy comms nearby. Target is mobile, close perimeter. Do not lose visual. Emily didn't stop running. Now it was a chase. She moved through broken structures, jumping over debris, slipping through collapsed corridors of concrete and steel. Every path looked like a dead end, but she kept finding openings. Her mind worked fast. Too many enemies. Too organized. That meant one thing. A command base nearby. If she found it, she could disrupt tracking. Or at least understand how deep this trap went. She stopped briefly behind a collapsed wall, catching her breath. A flicker of emotion hit her for a second. Not fear. Realization. Everyone on her team was gone in minutes. This wasn't just a failed mission. It was a setup. And she had walked straight into it. Her jaw tightened. No more mistakes, she whispered. Then she moved again. Deeper into enemy territory. The ruins ahead shifted into something more structured. Metal corridors, reinforced walls, signs of an underground facility entrance. Emily crouched near a broken fence line. Guards. Heavily armed. Too many for a standard outpost. This was it. Command or coordination center. She watched for several minutes, studying patterns. Rotation every 90 seconds. Blind spot near the eastern side. Weak point in lighting system. She exhaled. This was her chance. She moved like a shadow. One guard near the edge turned slightly. Too late. Emily grabbed him, pulled him into darkness, and neutralized him silently before he could react. She slipped his access card. Now she had entry. But the moment she reached the gate, a red light blinked. Then another. Then everything changed. Alarm system online. Sirens erupted instantly. The entire structure lit up in red. Intruder DATSCTD. Emily froze for half a second. That was all it took. Metal doors slammed shut across every exit. Footsteps began moving inside. Vast. Coordinated. Hunting her again. But now inside the facility. A speaker crackled above her. A calm voice spoke. "You have entered restricted military zone. Surrender immediately." Emily raised her rifle slowly, eyes scanning the dark corridors forming ahead. Her voice was low. "Cold. Controlled. No." And then she stepped forward into the darkness, where the real hunt began. The red alarm lights pulsed through the underground facility like a heartbeat. Slow, heavy, unforgiving. Emily Carter stood in the entrance corridor, rifle raised, every sense fully awake. The metal walls around her vibrated slightly from the alarm system, as if the entire base had just awakened from a long, dangerous sleep. And now it was looking for her. A calm voice echoed again from hidden speakers. "Intruder detected. Sector lockdown initiated. Eliminate immediately." Doors slammed shut behind her. Then ahead. She was sealed inside. Emily didn't panic. Panic was a luxury soldiers didn't survive on. Instead, she moved. Slow steps, controlled breathing, eyes scanning every angle. The corridor stretched forward like a throat, swallowing her deeper into the base. Flickering lights cast broken shadows along the walls. Then, footsteps. Not random. Coordinated. Multiple directions. She stopped instantly and pressed against the wall. 3 soldiers entered the corridor ahead. Heavily armed. Night vision goggles. Tactical formation. They weren't regular troops. These were hunters. Emily waited until they passed the midpoint. Then she struck. One silent shot. The first soldier dropped before he could even turn. The second barely reacted before Emily was already on him, pulling him into cover, disarming him in one motion, ending it clean. The third tried to raise his weapon. Too slow. Click. Silence again. Emily exhaled once steady. 3 down. But she knew something worse. They already knew exactly where she was. Because this facility wasn't just responding. It was adapting. A mechanical voice spoke again. Subject displays high-level combat training, switching to advanced containment protocol. Emily frowned. Containment. That wasn't normal military language. That was something else. She moved forward quickly now, leaving the corridor and entering a wider control section. Screens lined the walls, showing maps, heat signatures, and live tracking feeds. Her stomach tightened. She saw it. A glowing red dot moving across the facility map. Her dot. They weren't just searching manually. They were tracking her in real time. Thermal network, she muttered. They're using the entire base as a scanner. A soft mechanical hum filled the air. Then the lights changed. From red warning to deep blue scanning mode. She reacted instantly and rolled behind a console. A wave of light swept across the room. If she had been standing, she would have been exposed instantly. The system recalibrated. Her position partially updated. But not fully. A glitch. A small window of survival. Emily didn't waste it. She moved fast through the control room, using blind spots between scanning pulses. Her mind calculated timing instinctively. 5 seconds between sweeps. Then 3 seconds delay. Then repeat. She crossed the room just as another sweep passed behind her. And then she saw something that made her stop. A central terminal. Unlocked for maintenance. On the screen. Operation Black Veil. Classified level, maximum. Her eyes narrowed. She accessed it immediately. Data loaded slowly. Too slowly. Behind her, distant alarms intensified. She was running out of time. Then the file opened. And everything changed. Images, maps, satellite feeds, deployment logs. Emily's breath slowed. This wasn't a normal enemy base. This was something far bigger. A coordinated international black operation zone. And her unit, her entire mission, had been lured into it. Her eyes scanned rapidly. Then she saw the line that made her freeze. Unit expected to be eliminated with no survivors. Field test successful. Emily's hand tightened on the edge of the console. They used us, she whispered. We were bait. A deeper voice suddenly echoed behind her. Correct. Emily spun instantly, rifle raised. But stopped. A man stood in the doorway. Not a soldier. Not wearing standard gear. He wore a black tactical coat, no insignia, calm expression. Too calm. He stepped forward slowly. You weren't supposed to survive this long, he said. Emily aimed at his chest. Who are you? He smiled slightly. Someone who studies outcomes. Emily didn't lower her weapon. Explain. He glanced at the screens. Your unit entered a controlled elimination zone. We tested response patterns, reaction speed, leadership collapse timing. Her grip tightened. You killed my team. He nodded slightly. Yes. No emotion. Just fact. Emily's breathing changed. Slower. Heavier. Dangerous. And you, she said quietly, are next. The man didn't react. Instead, he pressed a small device in his hand. The room lights changed again. Emergency override. All systems reactivated at full capacity. Sirens exploded louder than before. The man stepped backward. You misunderstand, he said. I'm not here to fight you. Emily narrowed her eyes. Then why are you here? He tilted his head slightly. To see if you survive what comes next. Suddenly, the floor beneath Emily vibrated. Deep, heavy, like something massive moving underground. She looked down. What is that? The man turned to leave. Before disappearing into the corridor, he said one final line. You were never the hunter-soldier. You were the variable. Then he was gone. Emily stood alone again. But not for long. The floor shook harder. Metal groaned beneath her. Warning lights turned from blue to black. System override failed. And then, a deep mechanical roar echoed through the facility. Something had awakened. Something they had kept locked below. Emily backed up slowly, eyes scanning every direction. Whatever you are, she whispered, tightening her grip, you just made a mistake. The ground beneath her cracked open slightly. And from the darkness below, something started climbing up. Vast, heavy, alive, and hunting. The ground beneath Emily Carter didn't just shake anymore. It breathed. A deep mechanical roar echoed through the underground facility, vibrating through steel walls, control panels, and even her bones. The lights flickered violently, blue, red, then total darkness, like the entire base was losing control of reality itself. Then, a massive section of the floor shattered upward. Concrete exploded. Metal twisted like paper. And something began rising from the depths. Emily stepped back instantly, rifle aimed, breath steady, but eyes locked in pure focus. Through the dust and smoke, she saw it. A machine. No, not just a machine. A war construct. Massive armored limbs, hydraulic joints, red scanning sensors burning like eyes, chains and restraining locks hanging broken from its frame as if it had been imprisoned for years. And now it was free. A system voice echoed across the facility. Project Sentinel, containment failure. Emily's jaw tightened. So that's what they were hiding down there. The creature shifted. The sound of metal scraping metal filled the room like a scream. Then it locked onto her. Red sensors scanned her body instantly. Target acquired. Emily moved the second it did. Boom! A metal arm slammed into the wall where she stood, crushing concrete like it was nothing. The shockwave threw her sideways into a control panel. Sparks exploded around her. She rolled, recovered instantly, and fired 3 controlled shots at its sensor unit. No effect. The machine turned slowly. Then faster. It was learning. Of course it is, she muttered. This wasn't just a weapon. It was adaptive. Designed to hunt soldiers. Designed to end wars by eliminating everything. The Sentinel charged. Emily sprinted through the control room, jumping over debris, sliding under collapsing beams. Every movement was survival instinct now. No hesitation, no fear, only calculation. Behind her, destruction followed. Walls shattered. Ceilings collapsed. The entire facility was becoming a graveyard. Emily reached a lower corridor and triggered a manual blast door. It slammed shut just as the Sentinel crashed through the previous room. She breathed hard for a second. Then, the door began bending. Metal screeched. It was forcing its way through. Not enough, she whispered. She turned and ran deeper into the base. Her only chance now wasn't fighting it. It was stopping it. At the core, she moved through emergency tunnels, alarms fading into distant echoes. The facility was now in full collapse mode, systems failing, power unstable. But the deeper she went, the more the truth revealed itself. She passed walls covered in classified files, holographic screens still flickering, controlled war simulation zones, behavioral combat response testing, unit sacrifice efficiency metrics. Emily slowed for half a second. Her fists tightened. So we were never a mission, she said quietly. We were data. A cold rage built inside her. Not emotional. Focused. Controlled. Dangerous. She reached a final corridor, leading to a central command chamber. The core system. If she destroyed it, the Sentinel might shut down. Maybe. But nothing here was guaranteed. She entered the chamber. Huge circular room. Glowing central reactor. Massive data core pulsing like a heartbeat. And in the center console, a single activation switch labeled Global Deployment Ready. Emily froze. What is this? A voice echoed behind her. Calm. Familiar. You made it further than expected. She turned slowly. The same man from earlier stood there. Unarmed. Unbothered. Emily raised her rifle instantly. Stop right there. He didn't. Instead, he looked at the reactor. You're looking at the future of warfare. Emily's voice was cold. You killed my unit. He nodded. Yes, and they performed exactly as predicted. Her finger tightened on the trigger. You're insane. He shook his head slightly. No, I'm efficient. The ground shook again. The Sentinel was getting closer. Vast. The man continued. Wars don't end with soldiers anymore. They end with systems, with control, with predictable outcomes. Emily stepped forward slightly. And you think I'm just another outcome? He looked at her directly. No, he said, you are the exception. A loud metallic crash echoed outside the chamber. The Sentinel breached another wall. Closer now. The man stepped back slowly. I gave you survival conditions. You exceeded them. Emily narrowed her eyes. What do you want? He looked at the reactor. Activate it. Her eyes widened slightly. That would kill millions. He nodded. Yes. Another crash. Closer. Emily's voice lowered. You're offering me a choice. He tilted his head. I'm observing your choice. The sentinel's shadow appeared through the corridor entrance. Massive. Approaching. Emily looked between the man and the reactor and the incoming machine. Everything came down to seconds. Then, she moved, but not toward the switch, toward the reactor controls. No more experiments, she said. The man's eyes narrowed slightly. You'll die here. Emily didn't look at him. I already did when you killed my unit. She slammed her hand onto the console. System override initiated. Emergency shutdown sequence triggered. Alarms exploded instantly. The reactor began destabilizing. The sentinel burst into the chamber at the same moment. Everything collided. Emily sprinted toward an emergency escape tunnel as explosions started erupting behind her. The man didn't run. He stayed, watching, as the system collapsed, as the sentinel malfunctioned mid-attack, as the entire facility began self-destructing. Emily ran through shaking corridors, explosions lighting the darkness behind her like collapsing stars. The exit hatch came into view. She launched herself forward. Boom! The facility erupted behind her in a massive chain explosion. The ground shook violently. Fire shot into the night sky. The underground base collapsed completely into itself. Emily rolled out onto the surface just outside the blast radius. She lay there for a moment, breathing hard, smoke rising around her. Silence returned slowly. No alarms, no footsteps, no machines, only wind. She slowly sat up. The entire enemy structure was gone, burned into ruins, destroyed. A faint dawn light began breaking through the smoke. Emily looked at the horizon. For the first time, no one was chasing her, but there was no celebration in her eyes. Only exhaustion and truth, because she now understood something no one would ever officially admit. This wasn't a war. It was a test, and she was the only one who survived it. A distant helicopter sound approached. Friendly signal. Extraction. As it landed nearby, she stood slowly, still holding her rifle. A soldier called out, "Lieutenant Carter, we thought you were KIA." She didn't respond immediately. She just looked back at the burning ruins. Then quietly said, "I wasn't missing." She turned toward the helicopter. I was the only thing left alive in it. And she walked away from the fire. While behind her, the truth of the war disappeared into smoke.